Liking and craving are not the same thing. When I wasn't able to concentrate at work because I was thinking about chocolate, that was cravings. When I ate my daughter's Easter chocolates, those were cravings. When I was going out of my way to go to the store for milk and ended up buying chocolate, cravings. But if you would have asked me, I would have said that I love chocolate, right? It's my favorite thing. And I can tell you that I didn't love the extra 80 pounds on my body. I absolutely hated the joint pain that I lived every single day without fail, right? It was in my life. My rashes definitely kept me miserable. And at minimum, I knew that the weight and chocolate had a connection, that they were linked together. That's probably why I was so convinced that I must have loved chocolate. Because if I didn't love it, why would I keep eating the thing that was making me fat? Why would I do that to myself? The answer to that question actually shocked me. But because I fought with myself trying to put down chocolate for years, so many times, and always lost. And what I learned applies to whatever junk food, or should I say, fattening food, that gets all of us, that gets you. This, what I'm about to share with you, applies to all that food. We're only as healthy as our weakest organ. Our best efforts to eat on plan can be derailed because we haven't learned to prioritize health over taste, Wellness Warrior. Companies have set two traps that keep us craving and struggling and therefore impacting our organs. And today, we expose those traps so you understand what's actually driving your cravings. And then you have a real conversation with your doctor because you understand what was, like you can have a real conversation with your doctor about what's going on in your life. So let's start with something that seems obvious, but actually isn't. There's two kinds of things in the grocery store. There's food and there's food-like products. We've been trained to treat both food and food-like products as if they're the same, but I guarantee you they are not. Food has one ingredient. It's something that lived like an animal, a fish, right? Eggs, or something that grew from the earth, right? Like vegetables. When we eat food, right, our body knows exactly what to do with it. The other stuff, that food-like stuff, that processed nonsense like pasta, cereal, crackers, granola bars, protein bars, fruit roll-ups, those aren't food. They're manufactured products that they're entertaining, they're fun to eat, but they're not food. They start as cheap, raw materials. So things like grain, sugars. So that would be stuff that you can get out of fruit or vegetables, right? The sugar parts. Seed oils. They are highly processed to make them edible. And so what I'm really trying to say there is that they do stuff, and that's why you need so much sugar and oils and salt and stuff, like to make them edible. What's not obvious, at least not to normal people anyways, is that it's harder to make a profit off of real food. And when I say real food, I'm talking about meat, fish, poultry, and eggs. There's no way to patent or trademark animal products to inflate the prices. And I know you're going to say that the price of meat is already high. And understand the price of meat is already high, but it's not inflated. So there's no way to make someone loyal to a brand of steak, right? Like every cow is grown, and therefore, like most people are just going to buy a nice cut of steak and they're not going for a particular brand. Real food doesn't work as a business model at scale the way that processed foodstuffs does. Those plants, like let's look at those plants. We can take almost any plant and manufacture something that can go into a crinkly package. We slap a logo on it, and now we have a product that scales, right? We can brand it, advertise it, put it on sale in the grocery store, and best of all, we can protect it with a patent and trademark. Processed food can be engineered and designed to make them desirable. And that engineering process allows companies to manipulate prices, ingredients, and a whole host of factors that impact our health. I want to take a look at what exactly their engineering is trying to accomplish, because the answer explains everything. Like, it's one of those things that once you see it, you can't unsee it. One of those scenarios. Cravings, guilt, the cycle that never ends, all of it comes together when we look at how they pull all this together. Here's something that most people have no idea about. In 1985, R.J. Reynolds, which was one of the largest tobacco companies in the world, I believe, bought Nabisco. So Nabisco is the company behind Oreos and Ritz and Chips Ahoy, right? The same year, Philip Morris, another tobacco company, acquired General Foods. And a few years later, they acquired Kraft. So let's think about what that means. The scientists who spent decades figuring out how to keep us hooked on cigarettes, who studied cravings, compulsion, and the brain's reward system for a living, were handed a test kitchen and told to do it again. This time, do it with food. And they already knew exactly how to do it. So, enter Howard Moskowitz, a Harvard-trained psychophysicist. He was originally hired by the U.S. Army because soldiers weren't eating enough while they were on the battlefield. And he figured out the mathematically precise point at the peak of the bell curve where the combination of salt, sugar, and fat produces irresistibility and maximum consumption. So we're not just getting the soldiers to eat, we're getting them to overeat. Interesting tactic when people are trying to protect the rest of the... Okay. Not enough salt, sugar, or fat, and people don't enjoy it. Too much of one of those, and they tire of it and basically stop eating it. But right at that peak, they keep eating. And they come back for more. So Howard named this the bliss point. And when tobacco scientists inherited the food industry's bliss point information, though the bliss point became the engineering target for every piece of foodstuff that they made. Everything that we put in our mouth that's not grown or given birth to. I want you to understand what that means. This is not a metaphor. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is actually documented. It's research that's been confirmed that food sold by tobacco-owned companies were significantly more likely to be hyperpalatable than the comparable food not owned by a tobacco company. The cravings we feel when we open a bag of chips or a box of cookies is not because of us. It's not because of our character. It's not because of something like that was internal just to me that I was chasing chocolate. It's an engineering outcome. It's designed, tested, and optimized. And then, right, they've been blaming our overeating on their engineering ever since. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so I've spoken about the bliss point before, but I don't think that we understand how important of a trap it actually is. What I think is that most people actually believe that they can just stop eating processed food whenever they want because most people believe that they decide what they eat. Wellness Warrior, I'm here telling you today that you do not decide what you eat. You don't. We have no clue what sugar is. The average American, Canadian, the average person walking on this planet has no idea what sugar actually is. We think it's something that's added to junk food to make it taste good. The white stuff that we put in our coffee, we think that that's what sugar is. And we have no idea that fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes, and grains that we eat every single day on repeat all the time are essentially sugar. So when we're good and we put down the junk food, so we put down like, what is it? Where is it? These silly things. When we put down these silly things and we actually reach for fruit, what we don't realize is that we've traded one dopamine hit for another. So dopamine is the feel-good chemical our brain releases when the reward center is triggered, right? And sugar triggers it reliably every single time. Do you need a tremendous amount of sugar to trigger it? No, that's why nuts and seeds can trigger it. I can honestly tell you that anytime I tried to diet, the first thing I always did was add fruit to my diet, right? Because otherwise I wasn't eating it. It never went well, right? I would be hungry all the time, believing that it was because I was eating smaller meals. And in a way I was, right? Because my supper meals were actually smaller, but my lunches and breakfasts rarely changed. Now today I realize that I was hungry because I would add fruit as snacks, and I did that believing that that would help me to be less hungry at supper, right? Because if I ate some fruits during the day, I just thought that I would just be fine, that things would go well. The exact opposite is what happened. And it's crazy because I think back on it every single time. The exact opposite is what happened. I was hungrier than ever and would end up bringing several fruits with me to work and having several snacks in the afternoon compared to the one chocolate bar I would have usually had or one granola bar when I was eating normally. Maybe two granola bars if I was eating normally, but I wouldn't have 3, 4, 5 pieces of fruit. But what's frustrating, what really breaks my brain, by the time I would lose 15 to 20 pounds, I was so hungry all the time, I couldn't manage to continue. I would quit. And then, of course, because I quit, The cookies would call my name again, the chocolate, the ice cream. And since I'd already failed the diet, right, I'd go back to eating whatever because I'm not dieting anymore. Now, I probably was just self-soothing with chocolate, like because of the big fail. So part of it's the self-soothing, but part of it is that I thought I loved it, right? But I'll tell you that I know people, a lot of people, who during their dieting process allow themselves to have a little bit of chocolate or a little bit of like junk food because they want to they don't want to feel deprived so that they think they will keep going on their diets longer. And the truth of the matter is most of them kept going on their diets much longer than me. If I lasted on any diet longer than like 5 months, 6 months, that was amazing. That was a great result. Even at the most weight that I've ever lost, like I never made it past a year, I think. Like if I say a year, that's a lot. I don't even know if I ever made it to a year. But I did notice that people who allowed themselves to have those cheat snacks, they did go longer. The problem was they didn't actually end up losing more weight than me. They didn't lose and get to normal weight and just keep doing that. No, like most of them eventually quit too. It's sad that I know so many people who have dieted. Myself, my friends, my family. It's sad that I know this many people, but I do. We've been told a lot of stuff about dieting that just isn't true, right? We've been told that we should eat many small meals so that we never feel truly hungry, that fat will make us fat, so we should avoid it at all costs, that fruits and vegetables are free to eat and only benefit us. And I want to talk about that one, right? I want to talk about those lies about fruits and vegetables. Modern fruit is not the fruit our great grandmothers ate, or our grandmothers for that matter. It has been selectively bred, deliberately, for sweetness. This means that the fruit we eat today hits the brain's reward pathway in a way that regular old-timey fruit was never supposed to do. It didn't have the capabilities of doing it. It was not this sweet. Now, fruit is not as precise as the bliss point formula in like really kicking off that pathway and like making us overconsume to the extent that the bliss point stuff makes us overconsume. But it has enough sweetness to light up the same dopamine signal that, yes, was getting all of us to overconsume. And that causes us to chase, right? We're on it. We're running. We're going after the things that taste sweeter. Our brain starts searching for more sugar and it pushes us out to go and get it. Wellness warrior. That's why I was eating several fruits per afternoon, even though I don't like fruit. When we bite into a banana or eat some grapes, our brain's response is exaggerated because of the selective breeding of today's fruit. We're triggering the same reward loop that the engineered food is running on. I really want us to pause and just think about that. We're triggering the same. So if we were eating that old-timey fruit that didn't taste as sweet as this, yeah, we'd eat some if we were really hungry. The same way that we eat some vegetables when we're really hungry. But then we end up chasing fruit. We end up even chasing sweet vegetables. And then in our wisdom, we dip them in dips and stuff because processed food companies have made these things. And now when we dip the fruit or vegetable in the dips that they've made for us, we complete the cycle. And now we have enough salt, sugar, and fat for our brain to be chasing. And I don't know if many people, again, these are things that are not spoken about. In our keto and carnivore worlds, there's still some things that are allowed in that should not be there. Because when you have that right combination of carbohydrates, sugar, salt, and fat, our brain gets triggered and we are chasing and things go wrong. Fruits and all sweet plant foods maintain our cravings, period. We need to understand that. They keep the door open just enough that when the chips or the chocolate show up, in my case it was chocolate that killed me, the brain is already primed to say yes. Do you understand that I can sit here with this stuff on my desk? Well, now it's probably like probably not edible anymore, but I can sit there with this stuff on my desk and not care about it because I'm not engaging that loop anymore. This is why the guidelines that told us to eat more fruit weren't getting us out of the craving cycle. They were keeping us deeply inside of it. And it wasn't an accident that the guidelines push fruits and grains. Like, I need us to understand that. Grain is in processed foods. Grain is in bread. Grain is in pasta. Grain are carbohydrates, so basically sugar. Fruits are carbohydrates, again, sugar. Getting people to eat grains and fruits guaranteed that the reward pathway was always lit up. The whole system works together. Till this day, it works together. And we were told it was health advice. That eating this way is good for us. It's going to help us to maintain a healthy weight and stay, like thin and healthy and all the things that we want. I'm going to share a little something about my health experience that I hope you're going to learn from and therefore not have to live the craziness that I lived. At around 23 years old, my knees started to give me trouble. I went to a sports doctor for treatment because, of course, I was young and they thought this must be related to sports. Wellness warrior, I was not doing sports at the time. But I went to the sports doctor and I got treatment. And in my late 20s, I got tennis elbow from playing badminton. Okay, so that was sports related at that point. In my 30s, my back pain started. By 46, I learned I needed to have hip surgery on the right hip. Now, my joints were a mess for, as you can tell, from my early 20s. But after 23 years, the suffering went from a manageable 5 on 10 to a tearful, not happy with my life, 9.5 on 10 most days. And those doctors looked at me and told me that I wasn't a candidate for surgery yet. I wasn't bad enough. So basically, I would have needed to struggle along, continuing to feel the way that I was feeling, like many people do, here in Canada at least, till they become candidates for the surgery that's covered. Unless you've got lots of money, which I didn't have at the time. I still don't have to afford that kind of surgery, to have the surgery. So what do you do, right? You suffer and you wait because you can't afford it. So I started to research to see if there was anything I could do to help myself. And that was actually how I found the keto diet. I learned that joint pain can be caused by eating too much sugar, and keto was the one diet I found that would minimize my sugar consumption. I started keto April 20th, 2018. And 3 or 4 days later, I was struggling through some serious, ridiculous, maddening withdrawal. I couldn't believe that I was going through withdrawal. But I was, and I know what it looks like because I deal with people who do. So I knew what it looks like, and the person who doesn't do anything. The withdrawal helped me to understand that I was not in control of my food, because the only thing that I had removed was, the obvious junk food stuff, but then this, the pastas, and I had removed the snacks, and I had removed the high carbohydrate rice and pasta. So I now understood that I was not in control of my food, because here I was chasing and jonesing and wanting to go find the stuff that I already just figured out was causing my hip to make me want to cry every day. Most people have no idea that their cravings are a sign of dependence, because the truth is they never actually try to stop eating garbage. But the most surprising thing that happened for me took about 2 weeks. So I was in my kitchen cleaning up. And I remember this like it was yesterday, because when I noticed it, I was cleaning up and I moved my daughter's chocolate bar from one side of the counter, and I cleaned and I put it where it was supposed to be with her stuff. Someone had given her a chocolate bar. I finished wiping down the counter and I finished cleaning up the kitchen. And then when I was about done, like I was almost, I realized I didn't even think or have any desire, any feeling about having some of her chocolate bar. It didn't even cross my mind. And it stood out to me because that was a first. That was something that never used to happen. I now understand that I never loved chocolate. I was compelled to eat it. It was a compulsion. I wasn't in control. That wasn't because I wanted that, because I tell you, I didn't want any of the repercussions that were happening to me, because I was eating it. And guess what? That doesn't happen to me anymore. I don't, like I said, I can sit here in front of all this stupidity. I don't care. All things I used to eat. And I don't care. I don't have any compulsions about food. I don't have any compulsions around food. I can smell delicious smelling things that I used to eat and not have any desire to eat it. To me, it just smells like a nice burning candle or a beautiful scent. But do I want to go and chew on it? Not even in the slightest. It has been 8 years since I began my keto diet, and I'm still steadfast in eating healthy. My cravings stopped because I did one thing. I removed the excess carbohydrates from my diet. Right? And that removed the constant stream of sugar that was triggering my brain. Getting out of the cravings loop isn't about discipline or deprivation. It has nothing to do with it. Getting out of the craving loop is about removing the mechanism that was running the cravings, that loop, in the first place. Now, here's what makes that possible. Real food has no bliss point. Yeah. There's no mathematically optimized combination of sugar, salt, and fat in a ribeye. No food scientist in the lab figuring out how to make you eat past full. There's no reward loop engineered into eggs or salmon. So, when meat, fish, poultry, eggs, and salt are what you eat, are your food, are the things that you're focusing on, there's nothing running the craving system in your brain to pull you off track. Your brain is going to recalibrate, which is amazing. And real food starts tasting good, genuinely good, amazing, as a matter of fact. I look forward to my meals every single day because real food was always supposed to taste good to us. Right? Meat, fish, poultry, eggs, and salt. That was always supposed to taste good to us because that's what our body has always been sending us out for. Every time we get hungry, our body was sending us out to get exactly that. The transition that I'm talking about is real. So that first week, you'll go through withdrawal. Right? Especially if you do it properly. If you get down to less than 20 grams of carbohydrates per day, which is what keto asks you to do, But even if you get down to 50 or so, you're probably still going to go through some withdrawal. But you can minimize those physiological symptoms, so the bodily symptoms, the headaches and the nausea, with salt, right? Put extra salt on whatever you do to intake. Some of those symptoms will be minimized. The following week, yeah, you might feel like something is missing from your life, because something is going to be missing. You're still used to eating for fun, for entertainment. But that feeling that you have to go get something to eat, that grumbling in your stomach that's telling you that you should be eating something, even though you know you've already eaten and you don't actually feel hungry, but there's like this extra little, like, sometimes it's not even coming from your stomach. Sometimes it's coming from the back of your brain saying like, oh, I need a little something sweet, or I need a little something, like, I need a little bit more, right? It's the emotional withdrawal that's getting you. Like, that's what the engineering did. It created these cravings. But understand that that passes too, right? It, like, the withdrawal, the physical, after like day 5, I was fine. And it was maybe 2 days long. And that emotional one, that takes people a little bit longer, maybe like 2 weeks. But like I said, by the time I got to 2 weeks, I was not thinking about stupidity like this anymore. It was done. I didn't care. And once you're on the other side, what you find is food that satisfies without pulling you, right, into this loop and the trap and the foolishness. Your body starts to tell you when it's full and actually means it. Like, so when I get full signals, I can't keep eating. Like, it's not even a matter of saying, well, but it tastes so good, I want to finish. No, when my body is actually full, there's no more eat. Like, the food stops tasting intriguing, inviting. It just tastes like, yeah, I'm done. Like, I had enough. And that's amazing, because it doesn't mean that I don't like it. Tomorrow, when I'll be hungry, that same flavor is going to be extremely positive and tasting delicious to me again. And the strange, quiet realization that you were never actually out of control is going to be right there in your face. You're going to actually understand what I'm telling you right now, because none of us were ever actually, because of us, out of control. What we were very well targeted customers. They created a situation where they were so finely tuned towards us, and they created a eating pattern of the food we were told to have, the food, that kept us so well targeted that we were the best customers ever. In the face of our bodies failing, in the face of our bodies feeling horrible, in the face of our weight being nothing like what we wanted, we kept eating their silliness, these things, right? And even better, like when we were trying to lose weight, we would do these things, like these fun, sweet tasting drinks, right? Let's talk more about. So we were told that berries are fine on keto. Many of us still think that having a little sweet helps keep the real junk at bay, right? Because I had a little bit of some fruit or whatever, I'm going to not eat this stuff. It isn't true. As we just learned, sweet goes straight to our brain and triggers cravings. Now, it's important to understand that when our tongue detects sweetness, it doesn't matter if it came from fruit or a cookie, the reward loop gets fired. That's the path that reacted to the bliss point. Now, part of the reason that many of us eat on plan all day but fall apart at night is because of those slightly sweet, keto-friendly foods. That keeps the pathway on. And when we are tired and decision fatigue sets in, we end up eating off plan. Something that is not discussed much in the keto world is that fructose metabolism, like so that in the liver, has a very negative health impact on our health. Fructose is 7 times more like glycating than glucose. First of all, that's important for us all to understand. But even more importantly, when the liver processes fructose, it creates hepatic fat, elevated triglycerides, and the beginning of metabolic damage. A peer-reviewed paper in Cell Metabolism called fructose a metabolic toxin. That's not a fringe position, Wellness Warrior. That's published science. And all the plant foods contain fructose. There is no fruit, no sweet vegetable, no root vegetable. There's no plant food that is fructose free. The amount varies, right? A mango is not the same as a handful of raspberries, but the mechanism is the same, right? The craving loop stays on, the liver keeps processing, and we were told to eat fruit. Well, we were told to eat it at every meal because it's healthy. We were told sweet potatoes are better than regular potatoes because of the complex carbohydrates in. We were told that the sugar in fruit doesn't count because it's natural. None of that is true. None of it. And the industries that benefit from us eating sweet things at every single meal are the same ones that helped to write those guidelines that told us to eat them. We don't need fruit to be healthy, but we've been told we need it. And we've been told that so many times that it sounds radical the first time we learn that it was a lie, that we don't actually need it. We can get vitamins, antioxidants, and minerals from animal foods. More of it, actually. More completely, without the fructose, without the craving loop, without the liver hit. When we remove the sweet foods entirely, not just the obvious ones, but the ones that they convinced us were healthy, the loop stops. The "I've been so good all day" negotiation where I let myself have something stops. Because we finally took away the last thing that was pushing the cravings. Now, I suggest that anyone who's still doing a standard American diet go down to the description and grab my free course on how to start keto. That's going to be really helpful to you. There's no reason not to get that immediately and start healing your body, just to start the healing process right now, today. If you'd rather work directly with me, there's a link in the Wellness Squad for that as well, that we can work together, no problem. And I have a video where I talk about how I stopped my sugar cravings that I've linked in the description. So you have many options to take a step forward towards healing your body, Wellness Warrior, and working better with your doctor. So let's get going. Let's move on that. Do something for yourself right away after this video and after we do some comments. Hello, Wellness Warrior. I am so happy to be chatting here with you today. And let's see, I'm interested to see who's here. So, Raven Blackwood, hello, good morning. Fellow Wellness Warriors, even though I've been carnivore for 3 years, something inside me still battles cravings, so sugar cravings. And I'm puzzled as to why. You know, Raven, so being carnivore and still struggling with cravings, the number one things, or the few number one things that I am now talking to people about because I've seen that it has a huge impact. First, are you putting spices on your meats? Like, so are you cooking with spices? I think a lot of people think that because they're spices, they're free. But if you look on most spice bottles, first of all, for the very small serving size that they're telling you you're supposed to have, the amount of carbohydrate is usually, to me, unreasonable. But then we have to add to that that most people are going to put much more of the spice than what they've been told, like so what the serving is, because we don't check that. We just right? So my first one that I tell people to check are the spices, but the second one, which I think I learned about more recently, and for sure know it was impacting me unknowingly, well, even though I didn't eat off plan, it still was impacting me, was dairy. I was really not aware how big a role casomorphin plays on top of the sugar in dairy. And because dairy has so little sugar, unless you're drinking things like milk or going for the really high sugar cheeses, but if you're going for most dairy products, the carb count looks so reasonable that most carnivores would ignore it. In my opinion, I think that's what would happen. However, because I know this is what was happening for me. However, it's not the sugar only, it's the casomorphin from breaking down the protein that's likely getting you. And that's still triggering the reward center of your brain. So I would really encourage you to look at that. And if that's not, so if you have already cut dairy, please let me know. It could be the spices though. Or, oh, another thing that could be getting you, if you haven't cut this already, is the diet sodas, diet drinks, like anything that tastes sweet. Again, that cephalic response is going to click in and we're going to have trouble. Okay, so then we have Michael Anthony. Good morning. Pretty sure USA has historically low cattle numbers. So the interesting there, Michael, is that they, even if they have low cattle numbers, it's because they're deciding to grow other crops rather than raise cattle, rather than raise poultry, rather than raise pigs and lambs, and right. So there's other options that they could have. First of all, there's other meats that we can eat. So it's not just beef prices. I'm talking about all meat prices, first of all. But second of all, and fish. I mean, goodness, the price of fish lately has been crazy. I still buy it, but the prices are high. And these prices are still not outrageous when you consider what it costs to raise an animal, right, from start to finish. And can I just back up and say the animals are eating land, right? So I'm not just talking about because the cost of the feed, if they don't feed them correctly, does get cheaper, which is, again, things that they will do to try to save money. So they'll feed them inappropriately. But even when you have farmers growing their animals on their land, they need large stretches of land to even do that. And so this is where some of the price comes from. So I do acknowledge that, yeah, the price is going to be high, but they can't scale the price the way they scale it for processed foods. It was the point I was making. Let's see, Sing It. Hello, how are you doing? No way to one loyal to a brand of steak. Actually, even meat is a brand now. Example, Butcher Box. Your thoughts on brand meats? You know what? So here's the thing, and so Butcher Box is that a brand of meat? See, I would think that that's more like a store. So in my mind, that's like, saying that IGA has a brand of meat. Like they're putting their stickers on it, or I don't know what your like if you go to Erewhon and buy beef, you're going to pay more for it than if you go to a local regular store like IGA or Metro or something like that. I'm not really sure what your other stores are called. Whole Foods, I guess, would be one of them, right? But does that mean that that beef is appreciably different than the beef at IGA if you go to Erewhon and pay ridiculous price for it? They're going to claim it is, right? I've seen people go into Erewhon and buy one strawberry for like more than $20 and talk about how delicious it tastes and whatever. Yeah, but they've engineered that to be sweeter. That's the funny thing about animal protein. You can make it more marbled by feeding them less quality food. But then, of course, think about that. I'm paying more for my animal to be fed less quality so that it's fattier. That's still not healthier for us. So, like, the thing that makes fruit sweet seems like a positive, even though fruit and altogether isn't necessary. So when I look at butcher box, I'm more looking at that as a store than I'm looking at it as a brand of meat. Because if you took that out of the package and put it in front of somebody else, they're not going to be able to tell that that's like what company that's from. Compared to, and this is very interesting, and I've seen a lot of people do it. Can you taste the difference between Oreo cookie? Well, first of all, you can see the difference just by looking at the cookie because of the labeling on it. But can you taste the difference between an Oreo cookie and other Oreo style cookies? And you absolutely can. Can you taste the difference between a Pringles and other Pringles style? Absolutely, you can. And this is something that I do recall from my days of eating regular food. I hated off-brand cornflakes or any off-brand cereal. I just would rather not eat cereal than to have an off-brand. Off-brand cookies, same thing. I didn't have a particular brand of ice cream that I liked, so that was fine. But cookies, I absolutely did. Chocolate bars, I absolutely did. I didn't like off. I didn't have a particular brand of granola bar that I liked, so I could do off brands there. But there are certain things where if once you understand how it tastes, you can tell it apart, and like without any packaging, without like seriously being like blind taste tested, I could tell the difference between those things. And I didn't like the ones that were off brand. And then of course there were a few off brands that I liked better than the original. So like there would be something, I'm trying to think of one right now, but I know that there were things that I was like, okay, there were certain store brand pies. So like Super C makes its own pies, like they bake their own pies. Now, were they really its own, or were they just unfreezing something that was made by somebody else? But when I would buy, like if I go to there's a lot of fancy stores in Montreal where you can buy like like pre-made pies and pre-made cakes and all this kind of stuff. Rockaberries is the one that comes to mind right now. Oh my gosh, like I love their stuff. So like, but if I went to Rockaberries and just had regular apple pie, I never liked it. But I liked regular store brand, particularly Super C, whatever brand that was that they were, whether they were making it themselves or whether it was some company, like whatever that brand was, that's the apple pie that I liked, not the fancy Rockaberry. So my point being, I would more consider that the store. And if I knew what brand the Super C pie was, it's not about the apples. Like where the apples come, no, it's about the other things they're putting in there to make it taste the way that it would taste, because it was repeatable. And that's the other thing too. Like when you buy apples, the taste varies. So even if you go to Erewhon, which I've seen some people that tasted their strawberry and went, tastes like a strawberry. So there are a few people that didn't get the super sweet, oh my God, this is amazing strawberry. Now, is that because of their taste buds that it didn't taste amazing to them, but it tastes amazing to other people? Were the other people faking it? I have no clue. I'm not even going to try to guess at that. All I'm saying is that we don't know what there's not a very good way to do what that store chain is doing, except to say that they're packaging things in a way and picking those gigantic strawberries, which could be coming from the exact same tree that all the normal strawberries are coming from. That one happened to grow bigger, and saying this is a special strawberry. Oh my gosh, and whatever, and putting a story around it. And that's more what I think. So, but thanks for putting that out there, because I hadn't actually thought about that. For me, I think that would be, I guess the most branded meat I could think of would actually then be Wagyu, because they claim to be growing it in a different way, and the prices on Wagyu are crazy. So I guess that would be a branded, but like, does Wagyu, I mean, I've never tried it, so I can't say. Does it actually taste different than a regular piece of really nicely marbled steak? If you put two steaks together, one nicely marbled with a Wagyu nicely marbled, and made them the exact same way, would the Wagyu really win? Right? They claim to massage their beef and all kinds of, would it really win? That's a blind taste test I've never seen anybody do. Maybe Pat and I should do it, but I've never seen anybody do. And I'm curious, like, can you actually tell the difference? Like, I do think maybe you might be able to, because apparently those cows are only allowed to eat real grass. But are they grass finished too? That's what I'm not sure about. Because how do they get that amazing marbling if they're truly only ever eating real grass? So these are question marks, Wellness Warrior. But I do know I do know from reading Mark Hyman's book that they're willing to feed our animals candy with the wrapper still on. So are we getting a good quality piece of beef? Maybe if you compare like that low quality piece of beef to a Wagyu, you might see the difference. So it might depend on like the range of meats I would love to do that test if Pat's up to it. That would be an interesting video to make. Sing It says, no way to make one loyal to a brand of meat. Actually, yes, there are meat brands, but your thoughts on brands. Okay, so I don't know if it didn't show the first time. Raven Blackwood, being carnivore and having autism, HD, hyperactivity. Like, yeah, I know what you mean. I do still have that inner battle with myself to mix it up, to eat something different. I feel best on red meat, but I will occasionally also eat scallops and shrimp. So if you're eating scallops and shrimps, I'm not sure if you're considering that not carnivore. So again, in my mind, carnivore is only eating meat, poultry. I say fish, but I consider all seafood in there, and eggs. So in my mind, eating scallops or shrimp isn't an issue. But I do agree with you that very likely your desire for variety, it might be coming from just living in that world that we lived in, where we were constantly eating like something different. But you know what? I'm going to back up on that, because this is something that I've realized since you coming? This is something that I've realized since living healthier, because I used to say, come. I used to say that I was eating different all the time. But when I actually went keto and then started to look back on like what I was really eating when I was doing normal meals, every single day I had some kind of meat with either rice or pasta or potatoes as a side dish for my main meal. Most days, at some point during the week, I was going to have pizza for lunch. At another point during the week, I would have some kind of French fried something with some kind of meat for lunch. I didn't like sandwiches, so I rarely had sandwiches. But like my meals were very the same over and over and over. It was having burgers. I might have had burgers, like chicken burgers, because I wasn't doing beef, but I would do chicken burgers. If I was feeling like to do something really out there, I would have fish and chips, which is basically, breaded fish and French fries. So yeah, ones were like I was eating pretty much the same cereal for breakfast. Like, I mean, all cereals are pretty much the same stupidity. I was eating the same things on repeat. Did they taste fun to me? Yeah. Did I actually think I had variety? Absolutely. I thought I had variety. Was I actually having variety? Not at all. It was a bunch of chemicals with sugar. But it tasted slightly different. And so therefore I thought it was different. My cat is knocking things off my counters. Okay. But it wasn't different. Hungry all the time. M. Jones is saying that's so true. Yeah, there's a lot of things. Did I choose it? Sorry. There's a lot of things that we just live through. If you want to come. Oh, you're like driving me nuts. You want to come, but you're not coming. Okay. There's a lot of things that we live through that we don't realize we're living through because we just do it. We just go with the flow. We let the thing happen. And then when we are frustrated, we don't understand why. Let's see. Hi, Pat. Actually, now that Pat's here, that reminds me, can you please like the video and share the video? Even if you just like click the share button and like if you want to save it to a playlist or something for yourself for later, that's always helpful. Like there's different ways that you can help the channel to reach more people. And clicking that share button and clicking the like button really do help. I do appreciate every person who does that. Even if you just click it and share it to yourself, that helps me out a bunch. Good morning, Stephanie. I'm glad you're going to be able to catch the replay. I hope that you get a lot of value out of today's video. So Pat says, sing it. Find a good local butcher shop. We now have one. Yeah, we do. We have oh, I love our butcher shop. The prices are reasonable and they will cut up anything that you want to the amount that you want. I love our butcher shop. And the meat, and he's right, the meat is absolutely delicious. Thank you, Pat, for just coming in and sharing that, because I should have mentioned it earlier. Yeah, like it's great to have a butcher that cares about the product that they're putting out, and that then they go out of their way to help us to get what we want. Heard on the radio a couple of days ago that rural areas around Montreal have family farmers. Got to take a look into this. Oh, that's cool to know. One farm pairing with X family, and all the production goes to the farm. That is cool. Okay, I would definitely want to look into that too. Thank you for sharing that. You know what? That makes me now wonder, you guys might want to look into find out if there are any farms, local family farm in your city that might be doing something like similar, like so around your city that might be doing something similar. That is very cool. You know, they're starting to put like vegetation farms on the tops of buildings here in Montreal. But they're constantly finding ways to expand vegetation, because vegetation keeps us in their system. And this might be a nice way to support local family businesses who are trying to do good. And yeah, it's genius. Thank you. Let's see. One bite of a Nutty Buddy from a sweet addict said to me, warning. Okay. This is why it's true that carb, sugar, fat, cravings trick us for real a thing. Yeah, it definitely is. Like the compulsion that we get. So this is by design, 333. The compulsions that we get and our desire to overeat high carbohydrate foods is absolutely a thing. Unfortunately, brands mean profits and not always your best interest at heart. Rarely. That's the part that, no, I shouldn't say rarely. There are some brands that seem to start off caring. I'm going to say they start off caring. The unfortunate truth is, as we progress, as things change, we end up in a story with brands, right? Because especially if they go public, then they need to show profits and they need to make more money, and so whether you're trying to support yourself or a team of people, making money does matter on some level. Like, I'm not gonna lie, if my YouTube channel could make me enough to make a living, I'd do more videos. And I say more videos, I don't mean like more like have like a video every day. I wouldn't do that. That's not my, I mean, I would do more research. And I would try to have more time to do more interviews. Like, if I actually could create a system, that's what I would do. I would create a better system so I can get you guys better information. It would give me more time to actually read more of the books that I'm trying to get through. And so all the things that I'm trying to do so that I can better inform all of you of how to get your health back. So making money isn't necessarily the problem. It's when we lie about how we're making money. Like when these companies, like, you know, put like, you know, they have cheese in big, bold writing and flavored is kind of small so that you're not really going to pay attention that it's cheese flavored, not real cheese. But then higher up, it says filling made with real cheese, as if that's like, so it's cheese flavored, but it's made with which one is true? Right? Like, I feel like they're so willing to twist and turn the truth. And when you look at the ingredients list, if this was made with real cheese, there's no way that this bag sitting on my desk, which wouldn't be all puffed up and like ready to explode because it would have been spoiled by now, because this has been sitting here for years. The expiration date, I can't even tell, 2025. And I mean, I had it for much longer than that before that. But it's just crazy to me how companies sell us things as if they're healthy when they're not, to get our money. And then eventually when we're ill, they say it was our fault for overeating what they gave us, even though there's a bunch of chemicals on that ingredients list as well. It's not just that product. I have another product here too. And again, yeah, it's like, there's always chemicals. This one is, is saying, oh, only 100 calories. Our body doesn't understand calories. Strawberry flavor, right? But then it turned on and says no artificial flavors or colors. Okay, but it's only strawberry. It's like not strawberries, it's strawberry flavor. So if there's no artificial colors or flavors, but it's strawberry flavors, what's making up the rest that's not strawberry? Do you see the conundrum that puts my brain into? If there's no artificial flavors, but the strawberry is a flavor, what's making up the substance of the rest of the product? But nothing's artificial in this, even though on the packaging, where's the actual, the English version, acylated tartic acid esters and mono and diglycerides, concentrated carrot juice, at least that's, and that's for color, not even for taste. Sodium citrate, natural flavor, what's hidden in there. Cellulose gel, malic acid, sodium alginate, monocalcium phosphate. I mean, they all sound like chemical-y things, but palm kernel and palm oil, modified milk ingredients. So if they're modified, is that natural? If something's modified, is it natural? Again, these are question marks in my head. I never really, it bothers me. Bothers me. Big agora, big food, big pharma is like the profit over people unholy trinity. By design? Well said. Well said. Recall obese Jackie Gleason, how sweet it is. Mindset of mankind is sweet means life. Sweeter the better. Sour, not nice. Bitter equals bad. You know, the interesting thing about that, when we look at plants and we look at those, so we look at sweet and sour and bitter, from a plant's perspective, it's all about controlling whether it's plant, so whether its fruit gets eaten or not, whether its body, so the stalks and the leaves, gets eaten or not. It has bitter or sour in the parts it doesn't want eaten. And then when it's ready for you to propagate its seed, it makes that part sweet so that we will take it and eat. Well, so we eat it and then, poop it out somewhere further away and propagate its seed. We don't even understand that because our bodies are not the intended recipient of these foods, right? That our bodies are reacting to these foods, whereas the intended recipient would have it and feel fine, right? That's why, like cows and pigs and like herbivores can eat certain plants that if we eat them, impact us in a very horrible way. By Design says, I'm looking to buy some ancient grains like spelt. It's GMO that kills, plus multi-toxin sources. All plants have toxins in them natively. I'm just going to point that out. I feel, and especially if we're eating a grain, the grain is the baby, so the reproductive part of the plant, and it's the most heavily guarded I learned that from Dr. Eid when I interviewed her. You can check that interview out if you want to go and validate that. It's the most heavily guarded part of the plant. So whether it's ancient grain or not doesn't change the fact that a healthy body doesn't need it. I understand that if you don't have the money to purchase animal protein and you need to eat something, of course, go for the healthiest grain, the healthiest vegetable that you possibly can. I wouldn't touch. I just wouldn't touch fruit. There's no positive there, but just understand what you're trading. Russell Nichols, nice job. Thank you very much, Russell. I appreciate it. Raven, I have no dairy, and the only thing I put on my food is salt, nothing else. Interesting. And you're only drinking water. Interesting. So I'm going to say then that your cravings are very likely psychological. And if that's what's happening, my suggestion to you, so you're saying you have autism and you're still allowing yourself, you have autism and you have ADHD. Well, so you have autism and ADHD, like that's the autism, ADHD, whatever thing that you put on the screen before. What I guess is happening is that your brain is looking for entertainment while you're eating because you haven't changed your mindset about that. I would really encourage you to put your focus on entertaining yourself away from food always, all the time. I would ensure that my entertainment does not happen through food. Like one of the greatest things that happened for me was that these things stopped being entertaining to me as soon as the carbohydrate count went down enough. But that I don't have autism, and I think I do have ADHD, but not to the extent that I'm going to keep my attention on that. I think that most people don't do the work of talking with themselves about what they want their attention on. And that means you need to work on yourself. You need to actually have an engaging conversation with you where you actually diagnose, why do I keep doing the things that I'm doing that make me unhappy with myself, and then take better actions. So I'm going to encourage you to look into that, Raven, because I do think that you definitely can change that. If you want to work with me, like the link is in the description below, it's changeable. But you need to input the actual time, energy, effort, and talk it through with yourself. Let's see, By Design says, sharing this now with my friend who is cutting down on the garbage eaten for many years. That is great. Thank you very much, By Design, for sharing. Butcher Box has many sources, not one farm. Yeah, so okay, so that kind of goes back to my thing. I would see Butcher Box more as a store than a brand. Hello, London Matthew. Nice to see you in here. Question from Raven. Have you done research on people with food aversions? My daughter needs to gain weight, but her aversion to meat and fat. Again, I don't think that any person is actually has an actual aversion to meat and fat. I think that it's years of eating, this stuff that has trained our mouths towards carby tasting fun stuff, the textures of that stuff, like all of these manufactured things, and therefore away from the real foods. So your daughter, and I'm not sure how old your daughter is, but what she would need to do is understand that our taste buds and our mouth will habituate to what we actually eat. So if we keep eating the junk food, if we keep eating the highly palatable, highly sugary and salt, fat tasting things, then our body stays trained, so our mouth stays trained on that. And then, of course, our body lives the repercussions. If we bring in the better quality foods and just eat them, so yes, I'm not going to like it initially because my mouth is trained on something else. But if I eat it enough, I will get used to it. And I would definitely encourage her to work with a psychologist to try to figure that out.
Like, why not? If it's something, especially that she realizes she needs to learn how to do, she should do that. That is true, Violet. Off brand was absolutely yucky. From cereal to cookies. But what is interesting, different brands of sardines are distinguishable to some people. Sardines are sardines to me. So I wonder about packaging in that scenario. I've stopped buying canned sardines because depending on how they're packaged and then how they're shipped, how much heat is getting in through that packaging through to so because all tins are lined with plastic and they have to be heat sealed, you have the heat sealing process that's putting some of the plastics into your meat or your fish or your whatever's in the tin, your vegetables even. But then you add to it as it's traveling. You're getting more if it's in a if they don't keep it cooled, and they don't need to cool tins because they're tins, right? So they don't typically cool them. But then if that truck is in the heat, again, more plastics getting into your fish. That's my first concern. My second concern is the quality of the olive oil or the water or the whatever they're packed in. Again, if the quality of the olive oil, if it says it's packed in olive oil, but the quality is like really garbage, and it's like really seed oil with like, so you're going to taste that difference. If it's packed in water, but the water was questionable water, you're going to taste that difference. So I do think that some people who are more sensitive because their bodies have more issues, or maybe even they're more sensitive just because they've allowed their mouth to get away from the processed stuff enough that they can taste when there's maybe a seed oil or there's some kind of other something in there that's not great. I think some people might be able to taste the difference. My suggestion, though, would be for everybody, buy fresh fish or at least flash frozen fish, and so that it's not been heat sealed in anything. That's what I would suggest. It's okay if it's like oh, how do you call it when they suction seal it? That's fine. It's the heat sealing that's a problem. Wagyu tasted like bacon to me. I like bacon, but I never ate it again. It wouldn't bother me. Okay, so it tasted like bacon to you. Okay, so I mean, honestly, I think Pat and I might have to do a test. We buy grass-fed, finished steer every other year, and it tastes very different from grain-fed. Grass-fed is more meaty, more beefy. Okay, thanks for letting me know that, Stephanie. That's really helpful to know. Sing it says, "Yup, you mentioned years ago when you first started keto, the illusion of variety in the standard American diet." I know, like, I mean, it totally had me completely fooled. I thought I was having variety until I really stopped and looked at it. Do you feel, in retrospect, the reason you never liked sandwiches was because your dad is a doggone chef? No, actually, the reason I never liked sandwiches is because growing up, going to school, elementary and high school, all we brought to school were sandwiches. Like for me, my daughter, she took food with her to school, sandwiches once in a while because, it would depend on I tried to give her things that I thought she would eat, right? She wasn't much of a sandwich person, so there were a few particular kinds of sandwiches. She was more of a cheese and crackers person. And she would also have, but like real cheese and crackers, not this stuff, but like I'd put real cheese and crackers in her little lunch boxes. Um, but my daughter was more of a food person, so my mom would pack sandwiches for us to take because they were easy and they wouldn't spoil. They wouldn't spoil. Your expired snacks are still probably perfectly fine to eat, like the McDonald's French fry you'll find in the back seat of in the crease from 3 years ago. And it's crazy to me how much stupidity there is that, yeah. Okay, so it looks like we've reached the end of our comments with the two of you talking to each other, so that's great. Wellness Warrior, next Monday, 11:20, hopefully I'll be on time this time, 11:20, we will talk again. But I want you guys, go to the description, grab the course. It's free. There's no reason for you not to do it. Grab the link to my coaching, if you want to come work with me, that would be, we have space. So if you want to come work with me, that'll be a good thing to do to kind of get yourself where you want to be, get your health back. It's 8 years that I'm living at my right goal weight. Like, you absolutely can do this. And then finally, the next video to watch is actually also pinned down in the description, so you can grab that as well. I love making these videos for you guys, and I can't wait to talk to you again next Monday at 11:20. You are so welcome, Tomaticus. I'm so glad to know that you were in here. Have a great rest of your day, guys. I'll talk to you next week. Today's video is brought to you by my keto consultations. You know how to do keto, but you're having trouble just sticking with it? Book a consultation with me and we're going to get you back on track. The link is in the description.